Thank you for joining me today. A few months ago, a friend of mine asked if I could make a teddy bear for her grandchild using some baby clothes that she had for her sons. This past week, another friend contacted me and asked if I could make a memory bear for her using some clothes from her husband who recently passed. So she brought me 2 shirts which were his favourites and a pair of shorts that he rather liked wearing. The only problem is, and it's not fabric, is I have to increase the size of the teddy bear. She wanted it to be pillow sized, and I said a pillow is usually about 28 inches. So I'm going to show you how to size up a pattern and make this teddy bear. So let's get on with it. I had thought this was 14 inches. It's actually 18 to the base and the top of the head. I'm going to draw the graph on the paper behind. This is newspaper paper. It's really quite cheap and rather useful for all sorts of things. I had hoped to find paper already graphed. Now all I've done is drawn a graph, and I decided to do 1-inch squares, and I'm just tracing out the bear. Now I've done both on the same graph because these are the originals, so I'm going to take my time. I've done one in blue and one in black so I can tell the difference where they cross over. I didn't want to have to graph up the original twice because I've got to do that for the new one. Take your time when you're doing this. It is worth the effort. This is the black one. He starts about here. So I'm going to do A, B, C, D, there, but I'm also going to do it down here as well, and the same down here. I've measured my paper out to 29 inches, stuck to the table, and then across the edge there. It shouldn't move, it should be exactly the same size on the other side. Now I've measured it to 29 inches this side and closed that off too. Madam, can you get off, please, darling? I'm just going to put length of tape all the way across here, like that, so it's stable, and I'll do the same on the other side, so it's held in position. Just remember when you're doing a grid, if you're going to start on this side to go down, start opposite and go down the same way. Otherwise, you might end up mismatching. And start here and mark it off. 1.5 all the way across. I did 1 inch on the smaller one, but I'm timesing it by 1.5. Take your time, don't rush it, because I've got to go along both sides to do this. So if I was to measure out from this side 1.5 inches, then my lines would not go straight across. So having done that, turn my paper over like that, where there's a good corner, and I'm going to go back the other way 1.5 inches. So I'll do it this side because there's where the 1/2 inch is, all the way across. And then when I line it up, my marks will be parallel, like that. I've got to mark them all up with the alphabet in a minute so that I know where all the shapes go. I remember being taught this when I was in junior school, so that's how you do it. It's just drawing lines in basic maths. One thing that I did wonder is if I was able to trace out anything. I might be able to trace out the arm. If the tummy's in line, the legs are slightly different. They're a little bit higher and a little bit misshapen there. What I discovered yesterday was the length that I had done was only big enough for the front. So I've already measured out and cut the front, which I'm pleased with. So I'm going to start on the back. What I do use is one of these because I need to, in some cases, find a halfway mark or a quarter or whatever it is that I need to do. I'm going to start with his foot here. I usually line up what I can where I can. I've got my O here. I'm going to start lining that up. When it comes to N, I have a little bit of a discrepancy, which is 1, and I've timesed it by 1.5. So I'm going to put that there and find my 1.5. So it's got to dissect here and come on around here. Could be 2, so it could be a 3 here. Some shapes are awkward if you're the wrong way around, and I usually do an arc that way. But I'll still plot what it is I want. That's a 2, so 3 there. His foot has to come and dissect at 3. I'll smooth the lines out a little bit later, and then I'll go for the shortest side, which is here, and I will measure that out to there, and that will give me the line for his foot there. And I do this all the way around. I just line up the ones that I need. is really easy to do, and that's halfway through, so half of the square is there. I need to bring this round like that and join the two up in a nice curve. Now I've found that my curves aren't always that good, but when I cut it I usually straighten things out or shape them better. So that's what I'm going to do, as I follow this teddy bear all the way around this grid until the whole shape is done. All that remains is that I cut it out, so I am going to cut as smoothly as I can around. Now a couple of places I'm going to alter it slightly because it's close enough, but the scissors give a better shaping than my drawing. As long as it's as close as possible, that's all that matters. I'm able to smooth out some of my rough lines. I'm not going to whiz round, I'm going to take my time, and I'll cut all the way around. Now the nice thing about having this grid system is that everything goes either on the warp or the weft thread. So I'm going to measure across from here to there and put a pin in, just up and down. So if I say that's 3 inches to there, it just has to be 3 inches to there. Move him up like that and just recheck the numbers, because I'm sure he's moved a little bit. There's my 3, and he really didn't move very much on that one, so I'll pop this back in here. All I'm going to do is pin him around and cut these two out. This is the 2 fronts, and then I'll do the same with the back, cut out 2 backs. Now all I have to do is cut it out. While I am waiting for the calico to pre-wash, and I really should have done it first before cutting it out, never mind, just one of those things, I am going to take the shorts to pieces, the waistband off, no point in keeping that. Then the side seams, it's surprising how much isn't left, and until I get all of this apart and try it against the pattern, I really don't know what I've got to use. I'll probably undo the hems of the legs, because there's a little bit extra fabric there, even if it only goes into a seam. I'm trying to make the most of what I've got, and I'll take the shirts apart as well. It'll take me a while to get all the way through this. Cut that piece off there, because I don't need that. On this foot, I'm going to put that here, just the other side of where his ankle is. I need to make sure that the fabric that comes over comes to the right place here, so that I have everything in line. Before I sew that into position, I'm going to pin that on this foot like that, because that one goes that way. Then on this one, I'm going to make sure that that comes over there. This is really tight. I think that's a little bit more like it. I'm going to take the other one off and put it on this side, and then put this one on the other, because I think that would fit better. And nothing about this is quick, because you're always having to work out your placements for things. I'll have to double check everything before I commit to this. I think that will work. That's as high as I can make it, and even if I have to come around a little bit and lose some of that, I have enough manoeuvring with my seam allowance, so I'll put that there. Now I'll redo the other foot and make sure it faces the other way, because I don't want 2 of the same side. That would be awful. There we go, and I'll pin that into position too. I think what I'll do before I do sew everything down is quickly iron everything to make sure it's flat. I have made sure that the pink fabric comes up to the center of the side, so I'm going to put a pin there. That is to ensure that when I put this over, it needs to be there. I am confined with the fabric that I've been given. I wonder if the other leg would work better. If I take that further back, it might work. And then I get rid of the pocket, and I get rid of that. And then I'm almost down there. I might have to bring this back a little bit further, just a wee tad. I've also marked at the top where the side of this has to come. So I ended up lining the top of the side seam with the neck. Pin that there, and then come across here and pin that there, and that will cover the head. I know this was really tight on his back, so I've put it exactly the same way. This is slightly shaped. I'm going to keep all of that even, like that. What I will do is cut that back just a little bit to there, so it covers the waistline all the way across. I've taken the pocket off because I don't need that, and I'm going to line this up. Of course, every time I move something on here, something else moves too, which is not what I want. That comes to there, hides that. That goes up there. So if I fold that down like that from one pin to the other. I didn't have all of this showing before, so let me angle that a little bit better. It really is a case of moving things around when you're trying to fit scraps of fabric together, because they won't cut originally for what I'm using it for. I think I've got it. Steam that into position like that, fold it back and cut some of this back to about 1/2 inch. Bring that down and into position. I will rework it, but I just want to make sure I've got everything covered at the moment. That goes there. Pop this in here, and the same with that one. I'm just going to pop that in there for now, all the way through. The foot goes there, and I have to make sure that that is also covered. That goes across here. The parts I need to cover are from here, so I'll pinch that, hold it over. If it is slightly out, it's not going to be a major thing because I can always pull the fabric to make it fit. And again, steam it in place. Cut back the excess, fold the fabric over, fold that over, and pin that into place as well. It does cross over the fabric by about 1/4 inch, so it should be okay. If I move anything, I'm going to put that in there to hold it, and I'm also going to put that in there to hold that too. Before I top stitch this into position, just going to make sure that that is flat to there. I'm going to put another pin in there like that, just to keep that in position. Having done that, make sure that all of this is flat and that is in position too. Brilliant. Place this under here. Make sure I'm right over the edge, which I believe is about here. And I'm going to sew that in. Keep the fabric a little bit tall. That can be rolled up and chucked on there like that. And across we go. I'm trying to keep the stitch line as close to the top as possible. Remove the pins as I get there. Put that on there so it's not pulling the wrong way. Because I have used calico, which is on the warp and weft thread, it really doesn't matter how these fabrics go in, because they are held into position by the calico or muslin, whichever you want to call it, and off the edge. I think it's going to look quite cute actually. It wasn't quite how she wanted it, but we had to compromise. Make sure nothing underneath is being caught up. Again, line it up so that you are sewing as close to the edge of the fold as possible. It did shrink a little bit, but the nice thing is when you enlarge a pattern, you enlarge the seam allowance. So although originally it only had 1/4 inch seam allowance, it now has 3/8 inch. So I'm going to take advantage of that. Recut round with the fabric in place, just like I did on the little green teddy that I made for another friend of mine. And cut all of this back to shape. And this is why I do the calico and then put the different fabrics on top. If I was to use one fabric, then I probably wouldn't use the calico. Remembering to put all darts in and down. Just straighten that out. It does take time to recut everything, but it's worth it, I think. While I'm at it, I'm going to pull back this part so that I can mark where the eye is, which is here. There is a bit of a difference, but it'll be fine. That will just go in. I really should have overcut the calico in general, so my advice would be to overcut the pattern in calico if you're doing it this method. What I've done is I have marked where the top of his trousers come on the back, and I have also marked where, actually no, I haven't marked where, I'll do that now. By placing the foot from the front against the back, I'm going to mark where the pink needs to line up here and also at the top like that, because I need those to line up. I did cut out the darts. I'm going to ease that up. Make sure your darts are in line. Now, I know this is a little bit further back, but that's just where it slipped to. The one I'm more interested in is the patterned fabric. Pop that under there like that, forward and back, and then all the way across to fold. Always do it from outside in and then reverse. The other dart is right here, so I'm going to flatten all of that out like that, fold it over so that the pink fabric is parallel along that edge, and again from the bottom to the fold, forward and reverse, and then all the way to the top. And imagine where the line is when you go further up. Put the right sides together and put a pin across the top of those, because that's where I'm going to start to go down to the base here. Pinning as I go. I need to pull that down just a wee tad so it's even. There we go. And the same here. I'm going to go from the neck up. I'm going to leave this little patch here open because that's where I'm going to put the stuffing in. I'm going to start at the back of the neck, which is a little bit higher than I should, but it'll be fine. Forward and back, and around the back of his head, keeping everything even to the top. Forward and back. I'm going to start at the top of his trousers, forward and back, and on round, all the way to the bottom, and reverse. Match up the bottom corner, put the pins at right angles like that. Come to the middle here where the pink joins. Make sure that's as straight as possible. I'm going to pin that side because I'm going to be going up. Come up here to where his chin is. Pull that in line. I'm going to put a pin at right angles there, where his nose is, and to the top of his head. Pop this under here with my 3/8 seam allowance. Forward and reverse at the bottom. Keep everything flat to each pin. And I'm going to make my way all the way up the front of this teddy bear. Removing the pins as I go. Just need to make sure that I get these as close as possible. Because they are separate pieces, one might push up against the other one and miss a line, but we'll have a look. I think if I keep them firm, they'll be fine. And then up to his chin. Now try to stop at a right angle. There, I got it pretty close actually. And now I'm going to carefully go around this shaping. If you need to, take it slowly. What I'm going to do is lift it and just turn it a couple of stitches so it's smooth. There's no reason why you can't do it that way. If you feel that it's not going to go in smoothly, you can do it this way. It's a little bit slower, but sometimes it's an easier way of doing a rounded corner. Now that's in line, I'll carry on up. And when I get to the top, reverse. Just a couple of stitches. Put little clips up to the stitching, not over, and I'm going to do that all the way around. That allows for the seam to open up on the underside, just in case it needs to. The seam here, if I do, I'll probably get it even more misaligned. That's usually what happens. If I push his face out like that, I think he'll be fine. I did remember to put the darts in here and here. I'm going to put his eyes in before I get too far. Just make sure that the fabric is flat against itself. And I am going to put a little bee in and then put that through. There we go. His eye is in. Put that down hard up against there so it can't come off. And then I'll do the same on the other side. A small V through both bits of fabric to make a hole. Both of these fabrics are quite finely woven together. Unlike a fake fur where the fabric is knitted, you can get away with making a hole slightly bigger. There we go. Let's push that down like that and then put the back on there too. Straighten the fabric out, push it down really firm. So that's his eyes in. Then all I've got to do is open the seams like that and line them up. That's the center of his bottom, and pin that across. Then I'm going to pin the join where the pink meets like that. Then I should be able to pull that out and into place. Same with the top of his leg here. And I'm just going to find little points where things match, like the darts here on his toes, and get those to line up too. It's going to take a few minutes to get all the way around, but this is the front and the back going together. I think that's going to go in fine. I'm going to butt it up like you would with quilting and pin that into place. All I'm going to do is work my way around all of this to make sure that he is nice and even. There's a couple of little places where I'm going to have to take the seam in just a wee tad, but on the whole I think he's in place. I'll make him fit. I am going to start sewing him by his heel so I can stretch anything into place when I get there. I'm going to go forward, pull that out, and make my way around his foot, keeping all of those fabrics even. I'm not going to rush this because I do have to make a couple of little alterations as to where everything rests, so that I'm not stretching him in any way or missing anything. I'll go around and pull him into shape as I go. I'm going to take my time as I don't want to rush this part. Now I'm coming into a right angle, so I'm going to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. Coming in, go over, needle down, foot up, and pull him into position, and then on up. Again, line up your right angle, go across a few stitches, needle down, foot up, and pull everything back into position, and on round. The trick really is to keep everything as even as you possibly can. I know it's a little bit over there, but if I keep all of this even, it'll go in. Just have to be a little bit careful going around his neck. Pull him on round, make sure his face is even on either side. That's about right. And put him into place. And then work around his ears. I keep everything flat. So although all four pieces don't actually match up for whatever reason, they will all sew together. And around we go. I can go over anything that I'm not happy with, so it's really not a problem. And then into the top of his head. I will check both sides of him. Line that and that up, and round we go. Adjust and around. Having clipped all of the seams, even the straight ones, trim some of the excess seam off, but not too much. What I've done is I ironed these so they were a little bit more crisp, and then put a row of stitching across to give him his head shape, and the ears. I think he's going to turn out okay. Now I'm going to just stuff him. I don't want to overstuff him, so I'm just going to loosely stuff him in the arms and legs so that they don't go outwards. Here's his back. I'm going to fold over the seam allowance on both sides like that and pin him into place. I'll do a better job in a minute. I just want him to be closed to start off with so I can work out where the seam goes. He should be quite even, but that doesn't mean to say he is. And because it's a curve, it's not always that easy. I'll mess with him and then I'll sew him into place. The reason why I decided to put this split between this fabric was because then I wouldn't have to worry about folding different fabrics of different weights into position. I'm just going to go into this side like that, and then across like that, all the way up, and I should, if I'm lucky, be getting both fabric. I'm going to have to push the stuffing out into it, I think, to fill the gap up. So this is a ladder stitch or a slip stitch. It should be even. I'm thinking even on the smaller teddy bear I had trouble doing this. Wondering if the back, where they tell you to do it, is the right place. What I'll do is I'll get so far up and then start bringing the stuffing out to the seam, I think, because that doesn't look very neat. Can't always be my eyesight that's not working. This is the thing, when you're doing an arc, you'll find that things don't always go in as they should. As long as it looks neat, I think it'll go in okay. And he's a little bit lumpy down there. I'm just going to overstitch and then come back down in as small a stitch as I can because I don't want it really showing. I'll cut him off. I have a nose here, make sure that it looks even at least. I have to be careful because I cut it at my friend's house and I don't have another piece. So I'm going to put his nose there. That looks about even. Oh, it looks a bit more like a teddy bear. I had to put extra light on it because I really can't see what I'm doing these days when I'm using black thread. What I'm going to do is blanket stitch. It might be the easiest. But these aren't going to be terribly even. I really do not see what I'm doing. I'm having to guess. And I hate having to guess in my work. But fortunately, I've been doing this kind of work for so long, I can guess. But blanket stitches, you go up to the top of whatever it is you want to hold down and loop the thread over the top. And I'm hoping about 1/8 of an inch across. And if I hold that up, I can kind of see where I am going into next, so it should be a bit easier. And then I'll come down the side and round the bottom in a minute. They advise you on this pattern to embroider it, but as I say, I really can't see very much these days when I'm dealing with black threads. And I'm looking at his face, and I think if I was to do him next time, I would put interlining behind so that that pops a little bit more than it does. But as long as that's all held, that's all that matters. And personally, I think a little bit of a wonky nose adds to his charm. I think what makes him look wonky is the way this goes. I don't think it's really wonky, and if it is, it doesn't matter. I'll start coming down the side if I can move that. Thank you for joining me on this project. I found this challenging because obviously I had to upsize him from the original pattern. I think he's turned out really well. I didn't overstuff him, otherwise his arms and legs would be really pushed out. And I think if she finds a tie or something to go around his neck, he will look absolutely perfect. He looks a little bit lopsided, but I think that's the way the pattern is from the shirt sleeves, because I didn't line them up and make it totally symmetrical. I'm really pleased with him. To be honest, it's a great way of using fabric or clothing that is no longer of use to anybody. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.